Hey everybody. Building on some of my last few videos about getting ready for college and deciding what you want to major in, I want to make a video today about networking, how to do it, why it's important, and how the network that you make will set you up for failure or success. My name is Caleb. I'm a high school band director, and I do videos about music, wind band, preparing for college, and personal finance videos every now and then. You're watching The Future Millionaire Band Director. If you like the content that you've been seeing, please give the video a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas for some videos that you'd like to see. Today, I want to talk about networking, what it is, why it's important, and how you can do just a few basic things to get your networking set up for success. Networking, like generally speaking, is the way that you build professional connections, ultimately to help you get a better or first job. The first thing to understand is that networking is important because it will, more likely than your resume or the jobs that you apply for, it will help get you a job. I, for example, had no experience in the drum corps world, but I've now worked on the admin at very high levels for 2 different drum corps because of my professional network that I built. And you're building your network right now. Whether you're in high school or whether you're in your undergrad, you're already working to build your network. So the first thing that you're going to want to do to build your network is to expand upon the connections that you already have. And you already have a network of connections, you just might not realize it yet. For example, when I started my undergraduate in North Texas, I began teaching private lessons at the school that I went to, Burleson High School. And that director put me in touch with one of the middle school directors in the district. And then I was, boom, right off the bat, already expanding my network using the connections that I already had, using one of my mentors. And so as that went, I was teaching lessons and I had professional experience in my first year of college. That right there is the first thing you're going to want to do. Figure out who you know and how you can leverage that connection. Now, the next few pieces of advice are going to be pieces of advice about building your network that I wish I would have known when I was in my undergrad. These are little tricks that I've used to develop my network after my undergrad, and they're things that I wish I would have known a couple years ago. The first thing that I'm going to suggest, if I could go back and do my undergraduate again, is that I would have reached out to the experts in my field and asked if I could observe. This really applies to any field. But because I'm a music education person, I'm going to use that as an example. I would have, while I was at North Texas, emailed some of the big name band directors in the area, and I would have asked if I could have just observed. I would have set aside 1 or 2 afternoons a month to go out and observe. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to do 2 things. 1, that's going to introduce me to the big names in my field. That's going to make them aware of some no-name 18, 19-year-old undergrad. Just make them aware. It's also going to get me observing some of the best people in the field and seeing what they do. So I can, just by osmosis, pick up their techniques, pick up their ideas, and pick up their methods. I wish that I would have done this in undergrad because I could have met some of the big names in the country, and I could have learned by watching what they do how to be a better band director. It would have saved me a ton of time, quote unquote, in the trenches, figuring things out the hard way. The next thing that you're going to want to do, if you're an undergrad in a particularly flooded market, so again, for example, and you can translate this however you want to whatever your area is. In my particular area, the market is very, very competitive, especially if you don't have any experience or if you're really young. So if you're looking to teach private lessons, which is what a lot of undergrad music ed students do, they have to fight and claw to find certain gigs because the market is so competitive here, there's a lot of really, really qualified teachers. So a way that you can kind of counteract that competitive market is by emailing those people in our field and asking if you can offer your services for free. If you happen to have some experience at a state marching contest level band as a high school student, you could email some of the smaller schools in our area and ask if you can offer your services for free. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to do 2 things. 1, it's going to help you build your network by making those connections to those directors that you email to, and it's going to help give you resume experience as a start, which can be really difficult to get if you're an undergrad without a large network. This is true in most fields, especially if you have no network and no official degree or certification and not a lot of prior experience. This is a numbers game. You might have to reach out to multiple people to ask to offer your services for free before you get a yes. I know at my particular program, we are fortunate that we can afford to not have people for free. So you might have to cast a really, really wide net before you find somebody that will accept your free services. But it's a way to get your foot in the door if you have no connections, no experience, and no education, offering your services for free. This next piece of advice on how to build your network is probably my biggest regret from my undergraduate degree. And so again, I'm going to use the music ed world because that's the life that I live. And if you are not a music ed person, you can kind of figure out what the equivalent is going to be. I wish that I would have marched drum corps. It is basically a necessity for all high school band directors, especially young high school band directors. But finding that thing that is outside of the school world that is going to give you a massive leg up on the competition. I can imagine that there are multiple jobs that I have lost out on or not even got an interview for because I didn't have drum corps on my resume. If you're a band person, you know what I'm talking about. And maybe if you are a person who has gotten a gig because you got drum corps experience, let me know. Or maybe you've not gotten a job because you didn't have drum corps experience. I can empathize with you. Let me know in the comments, of course. And I think that you're going to need to find something, that extra program, whether it's a summer internship or going and studying abroad somewhere, that thing that gives you the extra edge up on the competition. And yeah, it's probably going to cost. Drum corps, for example, is a several $1,000s, investment, and it really is an investment because it's going to help you get a job later on down the road. I have since gotten involved in the drum corps game, but I had to use my network, my connections that I already had to get involved in the drum corps game. Figuring out what your industry's like extra version of anything on top of experience or the education or certification is really going to be vital. And like I said, if I could go back and do it again, I absolutely would have marched drum corps to give me that extra leg up on the competition. The last piece of quick, network building advice that I can think to give is a sentiment that I have echoed in some of the previous videos, which is build your network in a place where you want to be. So for example, it doesn't make sense to go to school in El Paso if you want your network and you want your professional life to exist in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It just doesn't make sense. There's a large geographical difference, and a lot of the people who mix and mingle in El Paso don't necessarily always professionally mix and mingle with people in the DFW. This is true in a lot of areas, not all areas, but in most areas, especially for the people who are starting out at the ground level with a small network. I would say build your network in the area that you want to be. I was very fortunate that I went to school at North Texas, wanted to live in the North Texas area, and use my network to get me jobs in the North Texas area. Again, for context, every single job that I've taken, except for my first job out of college, was because of the network that I built while at North Texas. It was because of that geographical closeness to the DFW area that most of my jobs that I've had have been in the DFW area, which works out well because I want to live here. Wrapping things up, if we look back, it's important to have a network from the very beginning of your undergrad experience to help set you up for success later. You're going to want to leverage the network that you already have, however small it is, to grow your base of connections and then start making an actual network. You're going to want to reach out to the experts in your field and ask if you can observe. If you have no experience and you're having trouble finding your first foot in the door, you're going to have to offer your services for free, and you're going to have to cast a wide net to do so. You're going to really have to start at the bottom of the totem pole, but that bottom of the totem pole is going to be the foundation for the network that you're going to end up building. Be sure to figure out what the obvious extras that you'll need in your career field are, whether it's marching drum corps, taking an internship, or going to do that special program over the summer. Having something like that on your resume is really going to differentiate you from the million other applicants who are sitting on some administrator's desk. And finally, build your network where you want to be. Go to school where you want to work. Build your network where you want to work. Hopefully these tips will help you start to build your network. I know that if I was an undergrad, I would take this information and I would do a lot of things totally different. If you found this video helpful, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And as always, thanks for watching.